Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jim from Jim's Holiest Coleus. Rootings, lots and lots of rootings. We're going to be doing a video on rootings today, and just a couple of my overwintered plants that I have going on here, and some things just to help you out if you're interested in how to best keep your rootings. There's many purposes for rooting Coleus. Number one, I think most people root them for is to make other plants, and ultimately most of these will become plants next year. Now I'll get into why I say most later. So other reasons, for decorations, we got different type of bud vases, different type. You can use anything that holds water for decorations around your house. What better way to decorate rather than going out and, you know, you could still buy your roses and so forth and your cut flowers. No one's saying that you have to stop, but when you root Coleus, they can last for months and months and months. So I'm not saying you want to change them off, but you know what? In between cut flowers, you can put some rootings out, and they make great little colorful statements. So there you have it. So anyway, let's get into the rootings. One reason I root too is if there may be a Coleus and I don't have billions and billions of seeds. For whatever reason, not every Coleus seeds. So Coleus have male and female sex organs on their plant, so that's why they grow seed stalks, but not all of them do. So anyway, there's a few here that I don't have seeds for, so I root them year after year until I can get a plant that actually produces a seed stalk. But anyway, so I'll do that. So getting into seeds, rootings. Here's a couple of Lord Voldemorts. And I have the plant. This is from a plant that's about 3 years old that I again never got seed stalks. So I just keep recycling it through the rootings every year. And I'll cut 3 or 4, and most of the time at least one, you know, sometimes the 2 will make it through. So I have like 4. They'll make it through the fall and winter. Let's get a rooting. Here we go. Here's a Saturn. Here's a Saturn rooting. Excuse me. This has been in here for at least 3 weeks, a month, and you can see it starts to develop pretty substantial amounts of roots. I know I have another, this is a Black Stockings that has this has been in there for like 3 months, and it has a really extensive root ball. Let's put that down there and there. And I know I have one other that even has a more extensive root ball. I believe this is it. Let's take a look. So you can see these develop pretty extensive root balls. Now, how do you keep these Coleus healthy? How do you keep, when you want to root a Coleus, what's your first thing you do? I just cut these here. Example. I just cut this Lord Voldemort. You want to find you want to look through your plant, find the healthiest looking, if you have that option. Just like cut flowers, cut it on an angle. Get rid of anything that's going to be in the water. You don't want any leaves, any branches that are developed in the water. And you let it root. Now this will root. Every Coleus is a little different. The more tender your Coleus, the stem, the faster it's going to show roots. It's good 4 or 5 days. Other things that'll accelerate the rooting would be how much light and sunlight it gets. So And some jitters, a couple of variations of jitters. Again, you can use almost anything. I find a lot of these in, I've had these for years, but I find some in antique stores, and they look great. I put them in different areas of my house. Again, I have these 3 little, they're 24-inch picture Anderson windows, the jalousies, and they get lots of light through later in the day. But these look great up there, so I put the colored ones up there. And I get these at the dollar store. You may have seen them if you have a dollar store near you. They're perfect for rooting Coleus. So, number 1, to keep your Coleus rootings healthy, you need to change the water. You cannot sit, they cannot sit, especially if they're baking in the sun. You cannot let the water sit for days and days and days or weeks on end. Number 1, it's going to evaporate. Number 2, I mean, again, the larger vase, the more water, it's going to take a longer time to evaporate. But you don't want it ever to have the water sit that long. You'll start to, it'll start getting slimy. Organic matter always gets in there somehow. Pieces of leaves and so forth always manage their way in the bottom. So what you want to do is take your rooting out. And rinse the bud vase. There may be some dead leaves. Anything that looks really dead. You don't want to cut any roots. And just gently rinse it. Rinse the roots gently. Any organic material in the roots you want to rinse. And rinse out your bud vase really well. And change the water. And at least, at minimum, some people say every other day. Hey, if you have the time and it's and you want to change your water every 2 or 3 days, and that's fine. You'll be doing your Coleus well. But don't let it go more than a week. I mean, a week is really stretching it. You really want to change the water out pretty frequently. And the more you do that, the more you stick to changing your water off, the better chance that all of your rootings are going to make it through fall and winter. And that's what I mentioned earlier about the 4 Lord Voldemort. So out of these 4, I may lose 2. For whatever reason. They may not make it. Or they may all make it. It depends. I can't figure it out myself either. Some of them, like, honestly, I cut a whole bunch. I have the overwintered Saturn here, but I did make a couple of cuttings because I like these Saturns. They're beautiful, but a couple of them aren't doing that great. I mean, they're all right. It's just, honestly, if I was a betting man, I would say that this one probably won't make it through the winter. So, but you know what? I got some rootings here and I have the overwintered plant. Here we go. Here's the other overwintered plant I have. And I overwintered these. I chose. Now, if you've been following along and you saw all those planters I have throughout my property, and you're wondering why am I just choosing these 2? Those planters I have on my property, I have tons of seeds, and I redesign those every year. So I cut them down in another week or so. I'm going to cut them down completely, cover up the planters, and then next year I will organize and design new planters. But anyway, here's the black stockings and the Saturn. So these 2 I'm going to overwinter. I'm going to get back to these in a minute. I just want to finish up with the rooting. So again, this is a pretty hardy, this is a jitters variation. This is a pretty thick, hardy stem. And this has been in there about a week already, and it hasn't rooted. So give it time. It doesn't mean if you see, again, the hardier and the thicker the stem necessary, it may take it a little while. Also, this is covered, so it doesn't really get light, so it takes it longer. So I can, I may change this and move this into a vase with a clear vase so it gets some light. So let's see if this one's getting any roots. This one here, same thing. It's a little hardier, so it's not getting roots yet, but it will. It's definitely going to root. This one here I put in around the same time as this one. This is another variation of a jitters, and it rooted pretty quickly. So it's all different. So just again, rootings, changing the water, and I don't put hot water, ice cold water, just water, temperature wise. You don't have to warm the water, just regular tap water. I don't use distilled water, any of that. Filtered water, don't use filtered water. Just regular tap water. I don't put anything in the water. I never put any kind of fertilizer in the water. Water soluble or not, I don't. Just water. And again, it's very simple. Change your water often. Rinse your roots gently. Get all of the any organic matter that gets in there. Leaves, dead leaves, little leaves like this. Any new growth comes in. It inevitably always gets in the water. So always rinse that out and get that out of there. So let's get on to some other. Here's some other overwintered. I took a cutting of this, black stockings, and I had potted, so I'm going to pot this also. And this is good because you know what? I don't have seeds. So I'm doing as much as I can to secure having a black stockings for next season or more. So I'm cutting more and more rootings, and I'll make, again, this is the only one. I'm not going to make any other plants now. This is the only one I have. And this is one I have left over from last season. It never really came in well, but again, because I never put it in a larger pot. This is a Japanese giant. It never really, again, it never took off because I kept it in this little pot, and it just didn't, it needs to be put in a larger pot, and I'll do that next year. So, and this is off the beaten track a little here. This is a poinsettia that I've had for a few years, and I put it in one of these pots, and we're hoping it's doing very well. Just waiting for it to bloom. Some of it's red, the red customary, the red leaves that make the poinsettia a poinsettia. So on with your overwintered Coleus. This is a pretty big plant. I trimmed it down an awful lot. You're going to lose leaves. It's inevitable. It doesn't mean it's dying. It's, again, overwintered Coleus. You don't fertilize. It's going to molt or lose leaves. There's no way around it. It's part of the overwintering process. The days are shorter. The sunlight is less. It's less intense. And it thrives with the amount of light. Light is the key with the Coleus. So once you enter winter, where you're getting these short days with less intense sun, the Coleus is going to decline. It's going to go into dormancy, and it's not going to be as vibrant. The leaves are going to look thin. They're going to look more translucent, like transparent. They're not going to have that deep, rich green color or whatever color it is. It's not going to have that richness to it. So don't worry. Just keep your Coleus alive. One downfall about overwintering Coleus is what do Coleus love? Coleus love humidity, heat, and humidity. Humidity more than the heat, although it needs heat. What do most homes lack in winters, overwintered homes? Humidity. Dry heat is a killer for these. It just it makes it more difficult, especially if it's near where, like, I keep my Coleus by my bay window, and I have a back family room that has lots of glass windows. I keep them near the windows and by the baseboard. So the baseboard heat's going to dry these out. Now this has got a pretty big pot, but I still have to keep tabs on the watering because between the sunlight and the heat, the dry heat, it's going to dry out quickly, and that makes it difficult to overwinter Coleus. Now, if you have a humidifier in the area, certainly you can run it near the Coleus. That'll help it. I don't recommend misting. They don't really like to have their leaves mist. It's not like fern. But make sure you keep tabs of the soil. You can reach down and feel a couple of inches. It should feel moist underneath, or you can go by the weight of the pot. Get yourself accustomed to feeling what a pot feels like when it's well watered, as opposed to when it's dried out. Here we go, is a leaf, couple of leaves. That's the next thing. Make sure your soil is free of dead leaves, because they're going to fall and they're going to land in there. So just keep track of that. Don't let this, it's going to happen, but you don't want to leave them there, and then water and leaves, dead organic material gets wet, and then it becomes a problem and turns to disease, and then you lose your plant. So just keep track of your soil. Make sure it's well watered, not saturated, but watered well. And see how it goes. I'm not going to say, I can't guarantee these are going to make it. I have a good feeling, because this is off of a plant that's 3 years old. So at the very least, what may happen with this plant, if it doesn't do well, is it's going to start to, you may lose half the plant. That's what happened to the actual mother plant, which was 3-4 years old. Is eventually, or after a few years, it went down to where I lost most of the plant, and there was 2 good, strong stems. And I decided towards the end of winter, right early spring, I decided to I made a decision to cut those stems and root them like this. And I made a new plant, which turned out to be this here. So always keep that in the back of your mind. If you're overwintering a Coleus that you like, it's going to go dormant. It's going to look like crap. Remember, if you're overwintering, you're living in an area that's not tropical, like I'm in New Jersey, you're overwintering the Coleus to save it for next year. So keep it alive, keep it watered, watch it, don't fertilize it. It's dormant. It's going to look like, it's not going to look as as the day gets shorter. It's not going to look as healthy. But keep it alive, and I'll definitely try to guide you in the right direction. So, okay, I hope this helps out. Rooting is lots of fun, and in closing, what I do is whatever I have left, and I should have a good percentage of rootings left. Whatever I have left here, I will either pot, or say this one and these 2. I may use these in one of my larger planters. So absolutely every rooting that I keep, ultimately, whatever makes it through the fall and winter, eventually finds its way into a pot somewhere or another. Other people have asked me why don't I plant all my Coleus? Why don't I make a big Coleus? Why don't I plant them directly in the ground? Why do I have so many planters? Well, I use the planters I use the planters because I have them. I have so many planters, and along my driveway, if you look at some of my videos, I have some railroad ties, a fence, and it looks like a soil, like a patch of soil I have all my planters on. That is actually not soil. It's really hard stone underneath, so there's no soil there. So anyway, that's why I make planters, because I have those planters, and I enjoy making planters. They're a lot of fun. So, all right. So any questions on rooting Coleus? Please feel free to send me a message, and I will absolutely do whatever I can to answer your questions. And you can absolutely do this. It's real simple, lots of fun. So, thanks for watching. Again, please subscribe if you haven't. Thumbs up, I always appreciate the thumbs up, and I absolutely love comments. So, all right, thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's Sunday, and have a great work week or retirement week or whatever you do. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Jim's Holiest of Coleus.